This is RadioLawFirm.com. My name is Rich Stevens. Hello and welcome. Thank you for turning on the radio. Jason and Jared are with me today from Hagen and Hagen, a law firm that's got a couple years under their belt. Actually, how many years is it?
Over 50.
So a couple years.
Yeah.
When you're looking to hire a law firm, you want to make sure that you check the experience first. If you go to RadioLawFirm.com, not only can you check the experience, but you get to relive the experience that we're talking about right here on this radio show that we call RadioLawFirm.com. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about today. Some of the things you might not even realize that you needed to know about. So whatever you're doing, take some time, and for the next 30 minutes, make sure you listen carefully. Let's talk about foreclosure, because no matter where you go, no matter what you do, the word foreclosure is coming up more and more often than, quite frankly, any kind of other legal battle that we're seeing these days.
That is true, Rich. I remember that there's an old car commercial. This isn't your father's Oldsmobile. It's kind of like this is not your father's foreclosure anymore because it's changing. There's been a lot of new news nowadays in foreclosures. You may have heard that recently our very own Attorney General stopped the investigation that had been going on into foreclosure fraud. A couple of years ago, Bill McCollum had been investigating some of the banks' law firms that had been engaging in some of the foreclosure fraud, and that investigation has now stopped. So the state has kind of left borrowers on their own unless they get an attorney to help them out. And so in that respect, things have gotten a lot more difficult. Jared, who works with me and works at Hagen and Hagen, can tell you as well that these cases are moving a lot faster. Everybody I know, and I'm sure probably everybody listening, has got somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that had somebody that got foreclosed on that says that they lived in their house for 6 years. They never had an attorney. We all have those wives' tales. That's just not happening anymore.
We were talking about this, I think it was on a last show, that Jared said 4 months, that it was that
recently
fast?
I had somebody come into our office who, in just 4 short months, they had set a sale date, and they were foreclosing on them. And at that point, there really wasn't much for us to be able to do except to file a bankruptcy to, one, stop the sale and now alleviate them of that all-important deficiency judgment.
Yeah, what happened was that a lot of these firms that got busted by the Attorney General's office, they had all their files pulled. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Bank of America, they pulled all their files, and they gave them to new law firms. And these new law firms, since they've got more law firms now, each one of the law firms has a lower caseload, and so they can move their cases a lot faster and pay more personal attention to them. So unlike the old days where you would have a foreclosure that's filed, and even if you did nothing would happen in the case for months and months and possibly years, nowadays they move a lot faster. They are quote-unquote real law firms as opposed to what we like to call in the business foreclosure mill law firms. So the bottom line is if you're a homeowner and you don't get help, meaning a lawyer, you're going to be in a lot of trouble real quick. And I kind of equate this to, it's a terrible analogy, but I only use it because I can't think of a better one. It's kind of like cancer, if you will. If you get treatment early, you have options. If you sit on it and you wait and you do nothing till the very end, you're looking at experimental surgery with not much hope.
So do you get people that have walked into your office and have said, listen, I tried to do this by myself and now I have like a month left and I just can't do it. So you know what the cleanup is on something like that, which is obviously really not a good idea.
All the time. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when I get a client who comes in, they've done nothing, didn't get an attorney. Now they are after the sale or a week from sale. They're too late in the process. And I look at their file and I think what we could have done for them 6 months ago, a year ago, had they come in at the right time. But, the longer they go, they just tie our hands.
And that's what we've talked about on numerous occasions. And Jared, we talked about this several weeks ago, where it's so important to literally just say, look, I'm not alone in this, and you have to own up to it, because it's not going to go away, although it could go away and then you lose everything, right?
Exactly. And again, the longer, like Jason just mentioned, the longer that you wait, the less options you're going to have. And yes, there's so many people that come in, or they go and speak to a realtor. And the only thing the realtor is going to tell somebody is the only option that they know of or they can help them with is a short sale. And not in every instance, a short sale is always the best option. Sometimes these people want to keep their house. They might be speaking to the bank, and the banker on the phone keeps telling them, send me in your paperwork, we're reviewing it. Then now they go try for a short sale. They keep getting mixed signals and not the proper advice. Where when you come to us, we're going to tell you what all your options are. We don't care if you short sell it, if that's what you want to do, or you want to modify it and keep it. Those are your options. And we're just going to tell you what they all are and try and custom tailor the best fit defense and option plan for you.
And Jared brings up a good point. A lot of these people that wait too long, it's not that they're hiding in the corner or they're afraid to face it. A lot of them are being misled, whether it's purposely or unpurposely. Sometimes it's, they're going to realtors, which are giving them misadvice. Sometimes they're calling the banks, and they're speaking to somebody on the other side of the line that's working for the bank at some corporate office that's saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Oh, we're evaluating it. No problem.
They're just reading scripts when they're talking
exactly,
to these people.
Right. They're just reading scripts. Right. They have nothing to do with your foreclosure case. They are in no communication with the bank's attorney. But for the homeowner who's on the phone with this person, they really think that they've got this under control. And so a lot of the people we come in, they were totally convinced that the bank was working with them, or that, they had this thing, managed, and then it all blew up on them.
Do banks ever work with people? Because I personally have had some really bad experiences with banks, and I know that you think they're your friends, but they're not.
They will, but you've got to do it exactly the right way. And sometimes you need a little muscle. And so it's not that they never will work with you, but if you don't know what you're doing, they're going to take advantage of you.
And they're going to walk all over you. And that's why you need the experience of Hagen and Hagen. Radiolawfirm.com, in case you're driving. All you have to do is remember radiolawfirm.com in order to get the phone number and all the information. Now, if you're not driving, well, good. Put this phone number into your cell phone right now, 954-987-0515, 954-987-0515 for Hagen and Hagen. And you guys give free information, a free consultation, just to get the ball rolling, if you will.
Of course. And we'll sit down with everybody, go over their exact situation, where they are in the case, what their options are, and we'll tell them exactly what it'll all be.
And every case is different.
Of course.
Even though they might have some of the same common denominators, each case is indeed different, and you're not reading a script the way these bankers are when they're talking to somebody directly.
Of course.
Because you need to personalize and tailor it for each client.
Right. We don't have the call center that Wells Fargo does. Nor do we want one. But yes, and I also want to point out something too. If you have been snake bitten, and by that I mean if you're one of those people that has sent in modifications on your own or applications, and the bank's lost your paperwork, or they've ignored you or given you the runaround, still come in and see us, because number one, things are always different when you have an attorney than when you don't. But more importantly, that things are different now since the Attorney General's $25 billion bank settlement that maybe you may have heard about, that happened a couple months ago, in February or March of this year. And that instituted some very strong requirements on the banks now, the top, not all the banks, but the top 5 servicers, when it comes to modifying loans and the time frame they have. Even if you've been denied a previous application, and in the past, if you applied for a government modification, you were denied, you couldn't reapply. You get one strike and you're out. Since this settlement, now you have a right to reapply. If you are denied, they have to give you factual information as to why you're denied. Do you remember the days when you used to send in documentation and the bank would say, we don't have your documentation, and you would just get a denial letter? They can't do that anymore. Now, if they don't have your documentation, they have to send you a letter saying, we are missing X, Y, and Z, and give you 30 days to get them that documentation. There's a whole long list of new requirements. So even if you're one of those people that has been offended, spurned, turned around by the banks in the past.
Who would that be? Nobody gets offended or turned around by a bank.
I don't know. I mean, most people I speak to are so happy with the treatment they've gotten.
You never run into somebody that says, you know what, I love my bank.
You know,
they're so good to me.
Everybody that comes in my office says they already got their modification without a problem, and they just wanted to come in and let me know that.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, it's also packaging it and making sure that you get the best chance for success. It's not just what you send in. You got to make sure that it's all done right to fit their guideline as to what your loan is to what your income and expenses are.
And not only that, but they're just the same way they did this big review on this, they're going to review later down the line as well, and you don't want to get caught up in that because you did it by yourself, and then they find out that you think you're all fine, smoothed out, and everything's, kosher with the bank, but then they found, oh, you forgot to do this part, and then that could start the whole ball rolling all over again against you.
Correct. Or they may just give you a trial plan, try and extract 3 to maybe up to as much as 5 or 6 payments from you, and then deny you later on.
Which is really scary.
It is.
Oh, yeah. I have people that they'll get letters that say, you've been approved, and under the government program, you make 3 trial programs, and then you're supposed to be permanent. Well, I mean, we've had people that have been on their
countless
8th, 9th, and 10th trial payment plan without it ever turning into a permanent modification.
Oh, my God.
And they're scared. They don't know what to do.
And rightfully so, because it is very scary. And I think what we should do, maybe for next week's program, you should bring in some of these letters, and we should read some of these letters just to make people understand and realize how real and how scary it actually can be.
Some of them don't get letters. Some of them just keep on making the payments. They don't get letters. They'll call.
They get the knock on the door.
They'll call the bank, and they'll say, I'm on my 8th trial payment. Am I ever going to get my permanent modification? And somebody reads a script like you talked about.
It's under review.
Yeah.
The investor's looking at it, or sending some new pay stubs, new bank statements. Now, as we know, things change. So even if you may have applied for that modification 6 months ago, things change. And if you got a really good payment in your trial plan, and all of a sudden you may have gotten another job or a second job, or your wife or husband are now back at work, that's going to change. Or quite the opposite. It may go even lower. Right. So they look, I think, when they do that, just to try and trip up people and try and say, look, we've offered this person a modification, and they couldn't quite, qualify under it.
So you're saying banks are not openly honest all the time?
Absolutely not.
How is that possible?
That's why they're bankers.
All right, listen, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about with foreclosure, and we will talk more about foreclosure, but I also want to talk about bankruptcy, and I want to try to get to suing debt collectors because a lot of people have concerns and questions, and I know Hagen and Hagen, you're the guys that have the answers. I'm with Jason and Jared from Hagen and Hagen. If you want more information about what we're talking about today, or just to get a free consultation, or check these guys out because they have a huge history right here in South Florida, and that says a lot about Hagen and Hagen. The website is radiolawfirm.com. It happens to be the name of this radio show as well, radiolawfirm.com. The phone number that you should lock into your phone, because you might not need these guys today, but eventually you will. And that's why you want to save the phone number, 954-987-0515. I'll give it to you one more time, 954-987-0515. Radiolawfirm.com. A lot more after a quick break. We'll be right back.
The law firm of Hagen and Hagen knows that if you're in foreclosure, all you've been hearing from the bank is what you owe them. But what about what the bank owes you? Hagen and Hagen knows what they owe you. They owe you a full review of your modification or short sale application before they just sell your home. The bank owes you an evaluation of options to foreclose before just running to court. They owe you proof that they even have the right to foreclose on you. They owe you relief from fraudulent and predatory loans, and they owe you the right to be treated like a human being. Stop living in the bank's world and come see the attorneys who believe the bank should see it your way. Whether you're looking to stay in your home, modify your loan, or leave your home without owing any money, Hagen and Hagen has options for you. Call Hagen and Hagen today at 954-987-0515. That's 954-987-0515. Or online at radiolawfirm.com.
Hey everybody, Sid here. The law firm of Hagen and Hagen wants you to know that banks are moving faster than ever to get homes. Forget what you think you know about foreclosure. Nowadays, you'll have a judgment against you before you can figure out what you want to do about it. Unless, of course, you've got a good attorney on your side. Hey look, a lot of attorneys are doing foreclosure nowadays because it's popular. But you need attorneys that have been doing it before it was the in thing and who know every defense available to you. Hagen and Hagen's trial lawyers have the experience to tell you what to expect, to keep you one step ahead, and to plan defenses and strategies tailored specifically for you. And why go to lawyers that do one thing when Hagen and Hagen has all the options? Foreclosure, modifications, short sales, and bankruptcy. The consultation is free and payment plans are available. Call our friends at Hagen and Hagen today. They're at 954-987-0515. That's 954-987-0515. Find them online at radiolawfirm.com.
Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you're making minimum payments, or not at all, on all of your bills every month, and they're going nowhere but you're still expecting things to magically get better, well, the law firm of Hagen and Hagen would like to suggest the very sane, very smart option of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a fresh start, a new beginning, a chance to wipe your financial slate clean. Bankruptcy may wipe out all your debts, letting you make a real difference towards a new future in just months. And that's in addition to the stress relief as the creditor calls stop and letters stop. Hagen and Hagen has been handling consumer bankruptcy for over 50 years. Regardless of your income level or background, bankruptcy may be right for you. The consultation is free, so come see Hagen and Hagen today. Call Hagen and Hagen today at 954-987-0515. That's 954-987-0515. Or online at radiolawfirm.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to radiolawfirm.com. I'm Rich Stevens. Today in the studio, Jason and Jared. Let me give you some contact information because I know you're going to have questions. 954-987-0515. 954-987-0515. Or you can go to the website, radiolawfirm.com. And if you can't find it on the website, then pick up the phone and call Hagen and Hagen, 954-987-0515. Jason and Jared, I appreciate you taking some time to be with us today. And there's only so much time, but there's so much to talk about and so much information to get out there. One of the topics that we're always hearing about is problems with debt collectors and suing debt collectors. You can't let the debt collectors run over you.
Well, yeah, in the economy that we've had, and even when you have a good economy, anybody who's got debt, whether it's credit card debt or mortgage debt or repossession debt, you end up with debt collectors and collection agencies. Whether you have a bunch of them or you just have one or two, cards or debts that have gone into default, you're going to start getting bothered by debt collectors and collection agencies. And one of the things that we do is we sue the debt collectors if they violate the law, and we make them pay our clients as opposed to our clients paying the debt collectors. Now, this may sound counterintuitive. Let me back up. Congress realized back in the 70s that although everybody should pay their debts and debt collectors have a right to collect their debts, that debt collectors should collect their debts fairly, that there was a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I mean, we've gone past the days where we break people's legs and put them in cement boots in order to collect their debts. And I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it kind of comes from the same concept that, okay, sure, you might owe something, but how does it get collected? And Congress realized that, we don't want to drive people into bankruptcy. There's nothing wrong with it if you have to do it, but we'd like to avoid it. We want to protect people's marriages and their privacy and all those kind of things. And so we need some laws that kind of even the bar between the debt collectors and the consumers. So Congress passed the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and Florida's got its own version of the act as well, the Florida Consumer Protection Act. And it sets out a long, detailed framework of the things that debt collectors cannot do in trying to collect debts. It's way too long to go over here, but as a general rule of thumb, anything that is untrue, false, intimidating, or harassing is going to be a violation. Now, people listening don't have to sit there and guess what's untrue or misleading. They can certainly call us and ask us. This applies to any communications, whether it's on the phone, you mean talking to them on the phone, or messages that are left on your voicemail, or the letters that you get, those pretty little letters that you get, that say, please call us, we've got a great settlement, that you get from your debt collectors. And we do have a fax number. Our fax number is 954-414-8494. And if you have a collection letter that you want us to look over to see if it's compliant or if it violates, you're welcome to fax it over to us. That's 954-414-8494. And so what happens is, if a collector has violated the law, you have a right to sue them whether the debt is legitimate. In other words, whether you really owe the debt or not. And I say that, I can't say that strong enough, because a lot of people feel like, well, I really do owe the debt, so the debt collector really has a right to do whatever they want to me. They feel bad about sticking up for themselves, and so they get run over by a debt collector. I don't care, and the law doesn't care if you really owe the debt or not. If there's a violation, you might have a claim.
Is this the same act that requires them to call only between certain hours too?
Yes, that's one of the most.
And what are those hours?
One of the most common, between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m.
So if they call it 9:01, they're in violation.
Yes, I mean if they're a minute over or a minute outside of those parameters, they're in violation.
Is this stuff hard to prove?
No, it's really not. These violations happen all the time because it's a matter of economics. See, if you're a collection agency, you know that if you violate the law, you might bring in $1 million more in collections. You might pay out $200,000-$300,000 in lawsuits, but if you've brought in $1 million extra by breaking the law, you've made a sum gain. So, there are some collection agencies that make a good faith effort to comply, but this isn't, they violate these laws all the time. And so these are definitely the types of things that we see, whether it's calling outside of those permitted time frames. You also have a right to tell the collection agency times that you cannot be contacted. A lot of people think, like you said, that if it's between, those hours, 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., collectors can call whenever they want. That's just not true. You have a right to tell your debt collector, please do not call me between, 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. because I'm at work. You have a right to tell the debt collector, please don't call me between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. because I study every night and I cannot be interrupted. It's very inconvenient. You have a right to dictate to that debt collector times that are inconvenient for you. And if they violate that, it's a violation. You have a right to stop them from contacting you at all. It drives me crazy when I hear about people that change their phone number because they can't deal with the debt collector. I mean, we all know somebody that says, I had to change my phone number because the debt collectors
right,
were
but they're going to find the new number anyway, so why waste the money and waste the time?
But Jason, excuse me, aren't also some of the violations more than just them just calling? Aren't there
yes.
with the letters
of course. And
contacting even other family members that aren't involved in the debt?
A lot of times I get people who the debt collectors left messages with mom, left messages with dad. There's violations in the letters. They violate so many ways every day you don't even realize.
They threaten to take the dog.
Sometimes.
I mean, I've actually heard a story about somebody, they actually asked if they had a pet, and they threatened to take the dog. And people
Wow.
get scared because they don't realize that
Oh, wow.
it's just intimidation tactics and it's not real.
Yeah. They either get scared or they're guilty because they feel guilty.
That's why you need an attorney to represent you, especially if you've had a problem with debt collectors. And I don't know anybody who hasn't had a problem with a debt collector. Now, what about somebody that's getting disturbing phone calls and it's really not you, but they're calling your number and they don't let up? Is that something you can go after also?
If it's a debt collector, you mean if they're trying to collect a debt that you don't owe?
No, that's not even you.
Like a family member or
A family member, but it's not you. And they're contacting you because they did one of those skip trace things
Oh,
and they figured
I
out
see.
that
Oh.
somebody used to live there, but they don't live there. Is that an issue too that you can go after?
Absolutely an issue. If they're calling mom, dad, leaving messages with them saying, I'm looking for, your son, please have him call us, absolute violation. Any type of correspondence, leaving a voice message, looking for you on somebody else's, to somebody else's ears, if they disclose it to somebody else, absolutely.
So that's
violation.
something you can go after.
All the time, and we get that all the time.
All right. Hagen and Hagen is the name of the law firm. They've been in business here in South Florida for more than 50 years, and that says a lot right there. Jason and Jared, what a pleasure to have this conversation. As usual, we don't have enough time to get to everything that we want to get to. That's why I want to give out your phone number, 954-987-0515, 987-0515. I'm sure you've got questions, and these guys will take your call and answer all your questions. You can also go to radiolawfirm.com. That's the name of the program you're listening to right now, radiolawfirm.com. The website's got all the information that you will need. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back again and continue and also bring you some new topics right here on radiolawfirm.com.